स्वागत है आप सभी का फिर से स्क्वाट्स। होता क्या है, डिफिकल्ट नहीं करना। हिप्स नीड टू मूव वर्टिकली डाउन. पीपल आर काइंड ऑफ मेकिंग इट अ लिटिल बिट मोर कॉम्प्लिकेटेड. द गैप बिटवीन योर फीट, इंची टेप लेके आपको मेजरमेंट नहीं करने का है. ऑटोमेटिकली योर फीट इज गोइंग टू टेक अ stance. Should it be inward? Should it be outward? I'm just going to try and answer all those sections of squats. मेरा knees मेरे hips को assist करता है उसे नीचे जाने में. We've got 1, 2, and 3. Many of us do that mistake. Not drive this upper body like this. Push the ground down. Your breathing technique, depth of your squats. You need to be aware of these things. Less of noise, more of what you need to do. Just understanding these might really give you that kick. Hey yo, what is up? This is Vishwet Boshak and स्वागत है आप सभी का फिर से मेरे YouTube channel में. And this is going to be regarding squats. And why am I doing this is because I have been getting with all the clients that I train and with all the people that I mix with, I think there is a lot of scenario where people are kind of making it a little bit more complicated than what it is. So it's just what it is. You'll have to take it for the raw value of what a squat is, and that's it. उसको ज़्यादा डिफिकल्ट नहीं करना, ना ही उसको ज़्यादा ओवर सिंप्लीफाई करना. So I'm just going to try and answer all those sections of squats that you might have a query about, and hope by the end of this video, which I'm sure you will watch, you will have a lot of things answered, and squats is just going to simplify for you. And I'm not saying it is going to eventually just become easy for you, but it's just going to simplify. Less of noise, more of what you need to do. That's what I'm here for. Let's go. Let's first understand what is squats, like what are the basics, and hota kya hai, right? I'm going to start off by some of the misconceptions that I know that people are getting very much worried about, like what should be like the gap between your feet, right? What should move first, your hip or your knees? What are these agendas? There are a lot of these noises that I keep hearing regarding squats, and आज का फंडा है कि I will try and just clear all those things. So let's start with what is the basic. What is squat? Let's start with what is squat. That's it. Simple. Fundamentally, squat is nothing but just this one line, which is the vertical movement of your hips. So your hips need to move vertically down. It need to move vertically down. That's it. Okay, that's the fundamental of squats. Nothing else. So if you think it logically, if you can sit, अगर आप कहीं पे बैठ रहे, right? If you can sit, then you are most probably a person who just does squat on an everyday basis. If you are healthy enough to sit down somewhere, you are able to do a squat too. That's the first thing that you need to clear off. Can I do squat? Can I not do squat? Utna simply, utna complication nahi. Okay? If you can sit down somewhere, you most probably can do squat. The only thing that might stop you from doing it is maybe your hip mobility or your knee mobility, and maybe the strength that you have in your quads. Those are the things that might stop you or might not stop you from doing the overall squats that you're doing, the whole of the depth of the squats. Now that the first thing that is clear, which is squat is nothing but the vertical movement of the hips, the next thing that comes is what should be the gap between your feet, right? Some people would say it should be really wide, and that is the reason why I'm not wearing any shoes, so that I can show you that what should be the gap between your feet, and you can see it clearly how my feet placing is and everything. Okay, so what should be the gap? Abhi bahut jan bolenge ki, like, say there should be this much gap exactly between your feet and everything. ऐसे इंची टेप लेके आपको मेजरमेंट नहीं करने का है. You can, how much should be the gap between your feet is very much dependent on your femur length. ये जो बोन होता है इधर का, it depends on it कि how much should be the gap between your feet. For some people it might be a little bit more wider than what I was standing. For me, it is somewhere here. Now, how do you identify what is your best stance? One of the best ways, and try this for yourself. This is one of the best tips that I can give you to find out the best width between your feet, um, which will be up. Whatever stance you are in, just stand there and try and think that you are going to try and jump your highest. So go for, like, just think about that you're going to try and jump your highest. Don't jump, just think and try and make an attempt. Like, genuinely just, and you will see automatically your feet is going to take a stance which is kind of designed to exert the maximum force down so that you can have the maximum elevation, and you can't do that without maximum stability of your body and maximum condition where you can generate the maximum force downward. So this attempt is going to get you to this specific stance. If you're somebody who has got no idea about what should be the feet gap, this is something that you need to try and you will have an idea. After that, you can just adjust. Now this should be your feet gap. The second thing that comes after this is, sir, what should be, how should our feet be placed? Should it be inward? Should it be outward? Should it be completely outward? How should it be? Again, it depends. Now you'll have to understand that what you're trying to do is you're trying to take your hip and you're trying to place it somewhere down here, right? So it's a vertical movement. Your hip is going to drop down somewhere here. Now to do that, if you place it too inside, means you're reducing the gap. Means it will become a hip of this size. To go down here becomes a little bit difficult. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to increase that area. Okay, so that's the idea behind your feet placement. Now, if you find this is where you can go your maximum depth and you find the maximum stability, then this is what it will be. If you find this to be some place where you can be maximum, then this is what it will be. If you find this place to be somewhere where you can put in or you can generate maximum force, then this is what it will be. For me, it is somewhere here. Next, I'm going to tell you about the part. Now that we know about the feet placement and the gap between our feet, let's talk about the descent. How do we go down? Now, this is one place जहाँ पे I have seen काफी लोगों में एक confusion है. So they focus so much on their knees that they forget on the hip movement. That it is, we're trying to move my hip down. So most people will end up doing something like this. So they're going to move their knees first. Okay? If I do this, even I can't go anything beyond this because this is where it gets stuck. But the movement is oriented to my hips. My knees just assist my hips to drop. मेरा knees मेरे hips को assist करता है उसे नीचे जाने में. The movement is not this. The movement is dropping this hip not outside but vertically. So I'm standing, I'm dropping it vertically down and all the way up. We are clear about few topics, few points. First is feet placement. Second is what should be the angle of the feet. Then we know that it is a hip movement. So it's our knees that assist our hips to move. Now we need to be aware about our feet and the exertion of the force. How do we do that? In our feet, we have 3 tripods. So 1, 2, and 3. Okay, we've got 1, 2, and 3. Now these 3 tripods need to be completely engaged while we are doing our squats. How are we going to make sure that? While we are standing, we need to make sure that our feet is engaged in all those 3 points and not just inward like this or outward like this or too much towards the back of your heel or too much towards the toes. It should be engaged in all the 3 ends. So 1, 2, and 3. You need to stand firmly on all the 3 points. Now, as you are going to try and engage all the 3 points, you will see, now if I'm standing normally without worrying about that. I might stand like this. But as soon as I engage my tripods, all the three ends properly, you will see there is a movement on my outward torque that comes in. It happens something like this. So I'm starting like that and it becomes like this. The job is to make sure that as we are doing our squats, those tripods are constantly engaged. They are not moving inward or outward. So the feet is absolutely stable and there is no inward movement no inward movement or outward movement of the feet. Because if you do that, then you're going to have a very stable, controlled downward movement of your hips. And because your tripods are engaged, your hips, your knees are automatically going to have an outward torque, which is going to create this extra space for your hips to completely drop down. And from here, once you're down here, now comes the important part. Don't think about driving your upper body up, something like this. So don't think of driving your upper body up. Think about here is your feet, you push the ground down. You firmly push this down. As you do that, you automatically come up. Let's have a look at it from the sideways. How does it look? So if I'm standing this way, this is my stance, my feet gap, all the things that we have spoken about in the beginning. Now I'm engaging my entire feet, the entire tripod, and now I'm going to do my squat. Now as I'm squatting, see my hips fall first, and as I'm going down, I'm making sure that my feet is firm on the ground. They are not going inside. The feet is not going inside, because if the feet goes inside, the knees goes inside and you collapse. And the same thing. So you need to keep all the thing engaged. Keep going down. And as you go down, your focus is not to drive this upper body up like that, which many of us do that mistake. Not drive this upper body like this, but with your feet, push the ground down hard. Now in one smooth movement, let's see how it looks like. 3, 2, 1. Let's talk about the breathing part here. Now, just like all other exercises, uh, your breathing technique should allow you to brace yourself, to stabilize yourself while you are doing the power movement, while you're doing your main hard rep. Okay, so here we are standing. So you will see, as far as the hand placement is, you will see my hands here. You can place it here, you can place it here. I like to placing it here because it also helps me to keep my torso or my upper body upright. So I keep it like this. I take my stance. I'm ready to do my squats. What I do is, what you need to do, we all need to do, is we need to breathe in and hold the breath. So we breathe in all the way down, drive the ground down, all the way up, relax. Once again, if you're trying to do it fast, it's going to be the same thing, but it's just going to happen much faster. So something like the same thing. And this is something that will also help you. The same breathing technique will also help you do it when you're doing, say, starting to add weights. So this is the fundamental. So when you start to have barbells and you start racking up weights, this is something that is going to allow you, because having a strong bracing technique, which will allow you to stabilize your midsection as you're doing your squats, is only going to help you enhance your squats. But that is in the future. Right now we are learning the basics. So let's just stick to these points as of now. Now we're going to talk about the last and the final point. What should be the depth of your squats? Right? We all are really, one question that we really want to have the answer to. What is the right depth of squats? How deep should we go? Now, we would want to go as deep as possible. Period. But how deep can you go? is subjective. Does your hip have that mobility? Does your knees have that mobility to allow you to go as deep as you want to go? Maybe not currently, maybe you need to work on it eventually. So that is something you need to keep in mind. But here is something that you need to look out for as you are um, doing your squats and understanding what's your depth, what's your current depth. So keeping all the things that I have just spoken about, all the basics that I've spoken about, here is something that you need to try and work on and try and understand what should be your depth. So example for me, as I start my squat, I'm on the way down. You'll see that till here, I am able to maintain a tightness in the body. There's a nice tightness in the whole system. But as soon as I go anything beyond this, you see that tightness just goes off. My butt just winks and the tightness is off. So now when I have to go up, my whole body is kind of soft at the top. And I have to generate all that power from the bottom from zero. It's like the inertia or the force that is there, it's completely gone. And I have to completely generate that power from the bottom. And that becomes like not that clean anymore. And then I have to come back up like that. So that becomes a trouble. But what you can do here is that you need to keep in mind simply this. Go to the depth which your knees and your hips allows, and go to the extent where you can hold on to that tightness. So example, for me, it is somewhere down here. This is it. Anything beyond this, I lose it. But here, I can keep that tightness. Here, I lose it. Here, I can keep that tightness. But for some people, they might come all the way down here and still they might be able to hold on to that tightness. That's fine for them, but not for me. So you need to be aware of these things. But here, it's just fine for me and I can completely just ramp it up with that tightness from there. So let me show you a few clean reps of squats. 3, 2, 1, go. So that's it. That was the whole thing that I prepared for all of you guys. I hope this shares some light to all the questions that you have always had about squats. And this is primarily for a lot of beginners who are having lots of different notions about squats coming onto them. If you see that it's subjective, what your feet placement is, what your um, how your knees should be placed, how your hips should move. It's very subjective. There is some basic things, some basic forms. Like one of the basic things that you just need to keep in your mind is squat is nothing but the vertical movement of your hips. Keep that in your mind. But this is not just for beginners also, but it might be for some intermediates or even advanced lifters who at some point might have missed out these basics, and hence in their advanced level of lifting or whatever level of lifting that you are at, you might be experiencing some hardships or some barrier, some plateau that you can't break. Maybe just dialing down a little bit and just understanding these might really give you that kick that you needed to excel to wherever you want to excel. Having said that, I hope this brings the light that I wanted to bring in to clarifying what squats is, and simply that, and hope it helped. And if it did help, share it with a friend. And if you think it added value, do subscribe to my channel, because I'm going to try and keep up with such informative videos. And there are more coming in, some vlogs, which will keep coming in. So do tune into my channel, share it with a friend, or maybe more friends, maybe 5 friends. And I'll see you on the other video. Take care.